Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ifoma. So in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to put together this Underbust corset which we drafted in our last video. So I'll link the video down the description box below. So if you are yet to see that video, do go check it out. Let's dive into the video. So these are all the pieces we had from the pattern we drafted in our last tutorial. So today we're just going to join them together and also attach the busk at the front. Okay, so the first I'm going to do is to try to pin all these things together the way they are supposed to be, so that once I sit on my sewing machine, I'm just going to start joining it. So I'm just going to pin them together. This can be a lot confusing, so while you're pinning them, you might want to be very careful. So this is everything when I have pinned them down. So I'm just going to go over to my sewing machine and use the 0.5 inch we added to join all of them. Okay, so after joining it, I'm also going to open them and iron it and give it a flat press. Okay, so after joining it, this is what it looks like, and I also went ahead to press it. Okay, so I pressed it, I trim out one part and I lay it flat with the iron on the side I want it to face. Okay, so if you want it to face this side, that means this side is the part you are going to trim off and lay this side flat. But because I want it to face this side, that's why I cut this part off. I trimmed it off a little bit, then I lay this one flat because that is the side I want my bone to be. Okay, so I hope you understand it. The reason why we trim this is because we want it to be as flat as possible. So I did the same for all the parts of this, both the front and the back. So I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine and I'm going to start creating my bone channel. Okay, so to create this bone channel, first of all, you have to measure the wideness of your bone. Okay, so as you can see, this bone is very wide. So what it means is that what I'm going to use to sew this is going to be very tiny, so that this bone can fit into it after sewing. So I'm just going to go over to my sewing machine and then match all these parts. I'm going to match it down. And for the lining, I also went ahead to join my lining and I just randomly matched on it so that it lays flat. Okay, so remember that the fabric is the one that's going to house the bone, so I'm going to go ahead and create my bone channel. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to cut my bone. I cut it in twos because, you know, each of them have two sides, right? So I'm going to go ahead and shape the mouth of my bone like this. I'm just going to trim it round like this. Okay, so if you can use lighter to do yours, that is fine also, but this one is what I actually like doing. I don't know how people do it lighter anyways. So when I trim it like this, it becomes smooth at the edge. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this to all the bones and also fit them. Press it flat so that you see it's very curvy. I'm going to press it so that it's straight, and then we get back to the video. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So after I have placed my bone, this is what it looks like. I've also went ahead to press it. Okay, so for the busk, it's at the center front. Okay, so for the busk, this is the box I'm going to be using, and this part, the part with the loop, is always in the right side. Okay, so this is the right of my busk, this is the right of my underbust corset. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place this busk like this. Okay, remember we added 0.5 inches. for the sewing. So I'm going to place it like this, behind 0.5 inches on the top and on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to mark it, that's 0.5 inches. That is where my bust is going to start. And then here I'm just going to mark it like this. Okay, skipping that loop. Okay, can you see the way I'm marking it? This is also the way we are going to sew it when it's time for sewing. Okay, so we are going to leave the loop, the place the loop is going to come out from when we are sewing it. All right, so we are going to go ahead. This is our lining. So it's actually advisable to use our main fabric as the center part of the lining as well. Okay, but I didn't use that, so I'm just going to make use of this one instead. So like I said, because I was managing the fabric, I just had to make use of my lining for everything. Okay, so I'm just going to go over to my sewing machine and sew it like this. I'm going to start here, skipping the part with the loop. Okay, so for this part as well, the part with this point here that is going to pass into the loop, we are also going to place it. Okay, making sure that the top is exactly the same thing as the top of the loop, so we don't have to make mistake. Okay, we are also going to place it on our corset like this, and we're also going to mark out 0.5 inches on the head and on the toe. Okay, so we are going to know that, so that we know that that is where the corset is going to the busk is going to stand. So we are also going to turn it with the lining using that 0.5 inch we added when we are cutting it. Okay, so we are going to turn it. We are also going to turn this part with the loop. Remember to always keep the place that the loop is going to come out from. So this is what it looks like. Okay, this is how we made it. So I'm just going to open it up like this and iron it flat on the inside. I'm going to do the same for the part with the other side of the busk. Okay, so this is it. This is what it looks like. Okay, this is the opening for the loop. Okay, so I'm just going to press it like this. So when we have achieved this, we are now going to fit our busk on the middle, bringing out all the loop from the hole. Okay, this is what we have. So I'm just going to push it. Okay, so this is it. So I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and sew closest to the loop. Okay, closest. This part you can use your zipper foot, your invisible zipper foot, to sew it, so you make sure that it's very close to the busk and it holds the busk in place. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and do just that. So this is it. This is what it looks like when we are done attaching the loop. Okay, so for the other side, what we are going to do is, I'm just making sure that this is the upper part of the busk. Okay, so we are going to place this. We're going to place this on the center. Okay, so we are going to try to push it to the center, like to the end of this place. Okay, we're going to try to make sure that it's in the center of this front. Okay, so we are going to mark out 0.5 inch on the top and on the bottom. So we are going to be start marking on top of each loop hole. I don't know what to call it actually, but you know what I'm talking about. This point that is going to enter the loop, we're just marking it on top, ensuring that we hold it tight to the center. Okay, so when we have achieved that, we are going to go ahead to open it up. Okay, so I'm going to open it up with this nail, just a very tiny hole, so it's not going to be too much, just a very tiny hole, because if it becomes too much, you are going to start wanting to close it up. So here I'm going to try to fit in this part on the tiny hole that we made. Okay, so after we are done fitting this is what it looks like. Okay, so we are going to go over to our sewing machine, and just like we did for the other part, we are going to sew closest to the busk. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my sewing machine now. I'm going to do this, and then we'll continue from there. So this is what we have after we are done with the busk at the front. Okay, so you're advised to use your fabric gum to just rub your fabric gum around this iron on the waist, so that it just, I don't know, it just holds it in place. Okay, so after that, you're going to go ahead and join the back. You're going to go ahead and join the back. On the side, you're just going to join this one. Okay, this is it. Make sure that it's the right one. On the side like this. And you're also going to join the lining. This side of this one as well. You're going to join this side. So you're going to also do the same for the lining. So we're going to go ahead and join this. So at this point, we are through with joining the sides. We also matched it down and added our bone to it. Okay, so this is it, the both sides. Then we also match down the lining. Of course, we are not adding bone for the lining. So the next thing we are going to do is to turn the center back. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is to turn the center back. So we're just going to flip the center back like this. Okay, we are going to turn it. We are going to do the same thing for the back. We are going to do the same thing for the back. Then when we turn it, we are also going to match it down, creating a channel for our bone, and we are going to fit one bone at the center back. So at this point, I have finished fitting our bone in the center back as well. I turned it, look at the back, see the front. I turned it and also top stitch on it, leaving enough channel for the bone to pass, so I fit in our bone. After that, the next thing I'm going to do is just to hold these things in place. Okay, so but first off, I'm going to trim away all the excess fabrics. Okay, so we get a neat project when we are done. Just trim away your excess fabrics. So I'm going to go ahead and match this down. Okay, so I'm just going to match it down like this, and I'm also going to do the same thing for the other side. So the last part is to cut out a piece of fabric on bias form. Okay, so this is bias form. I cut out this piece of fabric that is 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to fold it in like this. Okay, I'm just going to fold it into two like this. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. So we are going to use this piece of fabric to pipe the up and the down of our underbust corset. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so we are going to pipe it like this from the outside. I'm going to pipe it like this from the outside to the inside. Okay, so when I finish sewing on the outside, I'm going to show us how we are going to turn it and sew on the inside. So when we are done doing this, what we are going to do now is to, this is it, okay, this is how you sew this. So what we are going to do now is to fold this in like this, and we are going to match at the center here so that it's going to look invisible. Okay, we are going to match, we're going to fold it like this into two like this, and then we are going to match here in between these two joining, so it's going to look invisible. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and do just that, and then when we are done, when we finish that, that is the end of this. And we're just going to go ahead and put our eyelets at the back, and then tada, our beautiful underbust corset is ready. So guys, this is what it looks like after we are done. This is me putting it on. This is the back part, and the next picture is the front part. Okay, so at this point, if you are still here to subscribe, please hit the subscribe button and also hit that like button. Thank you, and see you guys next time.